Jeff, let's talk about it. A momentous day, a huge day in MLS. I think it's a great day in North American soccer history. The second team will be in New York City, the New York City Football Club. Talk about the buzz in the air.
Well, it's really incredible. Everyone knew that Manchester City and Sheikh Mansour were going to be involved, but really the fact that the Yankees are on board as well, that was a bolt out of the blue. They really kept that on the down low. No one was expecting that. It is interesting to kind of, hear that ownership group talk about the stadium. The Flushing Meadows Corona Park project, appeared to be moving forward, although there was some opposition to it. Now they seem to be backtracking from that a little bit. They're going to look at different sites. I think they're going to try to engage the community a little bit more. So it's still a momentous day. Just that level of investment from two sports heavyweights like Manchester City and the New York Yankees. It is a big day for Major League Soccer, no question.
When you look at Randy Levine of the Yankees and also Ferran Soriano of Manchester City, to me, this oozes of respect, this oozes brand, this oozes right away credibility before they've even played a game. Talk about that, Jeff.
Absolutely. Everyone, there's been so much growth in terms of watching the English Premier League here in the United States and Canada in the last several years. And everybody knows what Manchester City brings, just in terms of the amount of money that they sink into projects. Obviously, the Yankees just have just a huge amount of global brand awareness, if you will. I'm starting to talk like a marketing executive, but it's true. Both clubs just have incredible global commercial reach, and it is going to bring a lot of credibility. It will be interesting to see what happens to the New York Red Bulls and what this means for them. Certainly Red Bull are no slouches in terms of finances, but you got to believe that having Manchester City and the Yankees on board is really going to dwarf any financial clout that the Red Bulls would have.
Now, Jeff, if they're going to kick off in 2015, as a lot of people think they are, where would they set up shop in an interim basis before they settle the stadium issue?
Yeah, that's a good question. There really wasn't that much talk about that today. Some people are thinking that Yankee Stadium might be in play, but to me that seems really impractical, not only just because of the size, but the schedule during the summer, having to contend with the schedule of the primary tenant, which is the Yankees. So, we'll have to see what happens. They are touting themselves as New York's, big team. It's a team that's going to reside within the city limits as opposed to the Red Bulls. So, I don't see New York going to New Jersey. I think they're going to try to find some kind of solution in the city.
What I like about this second franchise coming in New York City, Jeff, is simply this. They're going to really respect the local flavor of the New York-born guy that has gone on to success and now maybe retired. I think of two guys right away, Claudio Reyna and also Tony Meola. And then a long shot for me, I want you to comment on this. I've been thinking about this all day. What about the Brooklyn guy, Bruce Arena, who has accomplished it all with LA Galaxy, saying, hey, I'd love to do it back home?
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting approach, but I don't think that will happen. I think when Bruce was managing the Red Bulls, that was supposed to be the time for him to come home, and obviously that relationship didn't work out. And Arena has continually lauded the support and the organization of AEG. And really the ability to let him go out and get the players and organize the team the way he wants. Certainly Arena has gained a lot of just immense credibility over the years, and just the amount of championships that he's won, people are going to be inclined to let him do it his way. But I think he appreciates the situation that he's in. Obviously, he lives in a fantastic part of the country weather-wise. So I think it would take something unbelievable, just an unbelievable offer to get him to leave the Galaxy, because he's obviously in a good situation there just in terms of the resources and then the team that he's been able to put together.
How about the guys, Jeff, like a Tony Meola, Claudio Reyna, more of a local flavor, guys that mean something to that market, really getting involved. Unlike the Red Bulls, I've got to be honest, that you don't see guys from the past, guys that are living in my market have never been really respected by the Red Bulls. A Bobby Arushi, a Carmen Marc Antonio, former New York Cosmos, guys that know that area.
Yeah, that's always been an interesting approach of MLS. They really wanted to kind of turn their back and really kind of dissociate themselves from the NASL era. I can think of some individual clubs that have definitely embraced that path. The Timbers, obviously. The Sounders, the Earthquakes. A lot of the West Coast teams that still harken back to that era. But certainly in the early days of the league, and MLS did not want to be associated with a failed league. And I can understand that sentiment to a degree, but I think there's a lot of rich history there that deserves to be celebrated. And certainly if the New York team, New York City FC, were to bring back Claudio Reyna, that would be an interesting approach. I mean, I know that he interviewed pretty heavily for the Red Bulls job when it opened up last year, so it'll be interesting to see if he throws his hat in the ring again.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. With all the news today about New York City getting the second franchise, again, the name of David Beckham comes into play, but we know that he won't be a part of this ownership group. But I keep hearing whispers and strong whispers about Florida and either Miami or Orlando, where he could be a big player in that. Talk about that.
Well, I think he could be a big player, in either one. Miami seems to be a better fit in that area, just given his ties to the fashion business and especially those of his wife as well. But it's got to be all about the stadium at some particular point. And I think both the Miami and Orlando projects have suffered some setbacks there in recent weeks. I think both teams were trying to get some legislation before the Florida House, and it didn't get done. And so it's going to be interesting to see what that does in the long term to the stadium aspirations of those two ownership groups. We'll see what happens, but everyone's talking about David Beckham being involved, but at this point, I think that's a long way away just because of the stadium situation in both of those locations.
Jeff, the last thing I want to talk to you about is obviously the real sad situation that's taken place in Chivas USA with the fan support really dwindled down almost to nothing. You see a lot of reports that the coaches and players now are not on the same page. I mean, all sorts of things happening, and we hear the league commenting about that. Is it sooner than later that this franchise will make its move either, I think, and I hope, either in San Diego or maybe Vegas? What have you heard?
Well, it's a mess. I mean, it's clearly just a shambles down there, and you could see it coming from the very beginning of the season. I think Chelis was able to kind of use some smoke and mirrors to kind of just keep his team in these games, just because tactically they're so different than any other team in the league. But now I think the rest of the league has got an idea and figured them out, and something has got to be done, and I really don't think that team will be there next year. Whether they can move farther east, to say Orlando, I think that could possibly be a situation that evolves as well. But it's just disgraceful how little the ownership is putting into that team. I mean, some of the moves that they're making, they clearly don't value some of the assets in terms of bargaining chips that they have. I mean, just the allocation money, giving up Juan Agudelo for the smallest allocation money chip that exists. Gabriel Farfan's a decent player, but to give up allocation money and a first-round pick, which will likely be the first overall pick, I mean, it just boggles the mind. And it's almost like they're playing poker and they think that the ace isn't the highest card in the deck. I mean, it's just crazy. And I think the league will have to step in at some point and do something about it. Certainly there's some owners that would like to see that happen.
It's sad, Jeff, because I had Dan Kennedy on, in my opinion, one of the top 3-4 best goalies in MLS on my show a couple weeks ago, and you could see how excited he was again at the strong start they had, but now you see how they've really tailed off. A guy like that belongs in a quality, top-notch organization in MLS because he is one of the best for my money. We'll close it out with this, Jeff. What is the counterpunch that the New York Red Bulls have to, respond with in regards to now this huge news coming?
Well, I think the way that they're going to have to do it is with players. They're going to need, obviously when Thierry Henry finally decides to retire, they're going to need to find names of that caliber to really keep pace. Because obviously Manchester City and the Yankees are going to have the financial muscle to basically spend money, not just on designated players, but premier designated players. I mean, they can pretty much spend money on whoever they want. I mean, obviously the best player in question has to want to come to MLS, but it's going to be really tough for the Red Bulls to compete. But it's going to be a soccer arms race, if you will, and the Red Bulls are definitely going to have to ante up and match what NYFC or NYCFC, is going to spend.
Exciting times in MLS, exciting times in the Big Apple, and exciting times for people like you and myself to cover a league now that is being recognized, it's safe to say, Jeff, worldwide. Jeff, thanks again for taking time out of your busy life to join us here on Red Card, my friend.
Hey, anytime. Thanks very much.